So this is like episode 3 or
Yeah, episode
maybe
3.
two nerds and a mic. How are you doing, man?
Good, good.
And
Trying to
we're
make sense of the craze of the world.
the world is crazy, but then we need to qualify the date always when we say the world is crazy because so today is Sunday, March 9th of the year 2024 of our Lord Sam Altman. I used to say of our Lord and Savior Elon Musk, but that shit is not
Yeah,
funny anymore.
that's
That's creepy now.
tastes bad in your mouth.
Yeah, yeah, that's now cringe. That's just like okay, nah, that's not a topic for a joke anymore, right? I almost cringe every time I see a Tesla now. It's like, yeah. So the world is going crazy, and our software development landscape is gone berserk. And my friends, colleagues at work, I'm going to mention them probably. Seb Barr and Justin Watts. They pointed me to an article called "The Death of the Stubborn Developer," and the article, it's a Medium. You can Google it, you'll find it. And then the article was also a follow up to another article by the same gentleman, and it was called "The Death of the Junior Developer." And he felt like got some strong reaction. I'm going to fix it, and
You would expect, right?
I sent them both to you, and I wanted to get your view on them. And like in the meantime, while I was waiting to talk to you, I was thinking, why we are so like running around like this? Because I have been writing software for 30 years. For the past decades, every technology came, whether it was the computers at first, then the PCs, like the PC was a technology, then the whole Windows GUI thing was a wave, then the internet, the mobile apps and cloud, whatever. Whenever a technology came, it did new things and it disrupted professionals. And it disrupted them not always nicely. It always ended up kind of okay, right? So it disrupted accounting and finance. It disrupted retail big time. It disrupted hotels and hospitality. It disrupted taxi driving. It disrupted everything, okay? Enterprise, everything got disrupted.
Typewriter.
Everything. So many jobs disappeared and so many jobs created, and everybody's careers have been in flux. Except for software development, we have always been the beneficiary of every single one of those technologies. And I think this is the first.
Some people more than others. I remember when I was starting on software development around 30 years ago, there was a big divide between mainframe developers that used a completely different
Yes, the COBOL 3270 guys, definitely.
microcomputers, 80s programmers, right? So as that market started booming and people started replacing some of those,
exactly,
people got very threatened.
But you could still move. Like you get the skill, you learn the new technology, you move.
Yeah, but that's exactly the point.
Yeah. Now this time, I think it's the first time that there is a technology that is actually disrupting us as software developer professionals or software professionals. So I think we don't know how to deal with it. And we're a little bit, we were in shock still. We're like, what? Me? You're doing to me what I've been doing to everyone else for the last 30 years?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because I can imagine people who are used to writing forms with not a care in the world of how they were going to look, find modern form development on the internet with all the accessibility concerns and things like that very daunting, and need to adapt to it, and it's sort of a disruption, right? The same with the mainframe developers versus microcomputer. What scares right now is the speed and the scale. The impact is at an unprecedented scale. Like you see things changing in a way that kind of takes away big chunks of what you used to do.
But it's a little bit different because every technology, the result of the technology, when you in advance, you need more development. You need more people. You need more software developers. This is the first technology that comes and promises less software developers with better productivity. No, there is good reason to panic. And I don't think there is good reason to panic. I think that's a mistake. But there is reason for us to be concerned.
Yeah, no, the concern is real. Yeah, I have to
The concern is
agree.
real. But to your point, and I think you mentioned that, like building forums was daunting, building React components was just daunting, and things got monotonous and boring. And I think so. I had very interesting experience where I argued a little bit with Cursor on my home computer, and I argued also a little bit at work because luckily in TELUS at work we are very AI, like we're up there in the adoption. So I have Klein at work and we use it with Sonnet 3.7 both, up and down. So whether I'm like in the office or in the living room, I am clause 3.7 is stalking to me. So I argued with it and we did something and we're talking about building a Docker image for a development environment that is different from a Docker image to a production environment. And I wrote about this stuff 6 years ago on LinkedIn, more than 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe six. Anyways, and I was like, I think I know what needs to be done. You're doing things that I'm not sure what you're doing. And I said, why are you doing this? And it replied back to me with a long list of reasons why it did it differently than the way I want to do it. And it was all these changes to the technology that I'm not following up to. And a part of me was taken aback and thinking like, wait a minute. If I went to sleep 30 years ago when we were just still doing C++ and a little bit Java was not even there yet. It was C++, a little bit touch of Java and some Pascal and Object Pascal and Turbo Pascal and all that. And we were building things for Windows or OS2 or Mac that runs on your computer. The requirements of the software was so much limited. The requirements now is vast, huge. The software, the testing, the pipelines, the DevOps, the integration, the scalability.
The demand for time to market, the competition
and on top of the
environment.
competition, security, reliability, the five well-architected framework on top of software development and the technologies. You got like front-end technologies and back-end technologies and security protocols like OAuth and authentication protocols and providers and in different databases and it's not SQL anymore and it's not just relational and then I'm like, it's impossible for us to accomplish all that with the same way we've been doing things. We need something fundamentally different. So if I went to sleep 30 years ago and I wake up now and I see Klein, I'm like, well, that makes sense. That's what you have to do. In fact, trying to do that, like the way we were doing it 3 years ago, we were all like sleepwalking. So we were like like the boiling frog, like the temperature was increasing 1 degree every year. And we've been like all sleepwalking into thinking, yeah, we will do the digital transformation.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Like as a mentor, a lot of people. So sometimes I get someone who's new to software development and try to explain to them how you just publish this endpoint. Publish an endpoint, that's trivial. All you need to do is create a monorepo with this tools here and do this git push to this place, write this pipeline file, then
Yeah.
It's like, you see the size of the eye of them. What the heck? Taking furious notes. It's like I was saying, oh yeah, you're right. There's an insane amount of context that goes into each one of these little things.
Exactly. And that's it. Like I think these models are here to save us. They're not here to kill the junior developer or to kill the stubborn developer. Although I love the junior developer and I don't have that much affection to the stubborn developers as described by the article. These are the developers who refuse to learn new techniques and are set in their own ways. We've all like had trouble with them. But I think they're here to save us. I think they're here to help us achieve what we need to achieve. The amount of work sitting, waiting to be finished in the enterprise.
Yeah, but I think there is even one level higher. I love what you say, but I think there's one level higher. The amount of things we need to accomplish today, that's already daunting. was tailored towards humans doing it. This is what we used to do 2-3 years ago without the AI. Now that we have those in place, I think the bar is gonna shoot to the stratosphere.
That's like the next step.
That's the next step,
right?
We're gonna start seeing like adaptive systems.
That's the promise, right?
Or whatever.
I'm fully with you. That's the promise. But so far, it seems that the only promise that the technology is delivering on is writing code. Like so far, it seems like the golden app is code writing. I mean, it's okay. Although my wife loves it. My wife's has somehow like a personality AI that talks to her apparently better than me. That's a flag right there. That's a concern. But then,
the goal is improving life, huh?
I know, but it's also like as a friend or a partner or a spouse, how do you compete with inference time? Like that's
wait until they read minds. That's gonna be a problem.
yeah. So back to software development. So if you have not read the article, the summary is the gentleman wrote an article. Very TLDR is because all the mundane small tasks that generally junior developers used to do can be done now by machines much faster, much cheaper. That the models are becoming the junior developer and it's only needed by senior to mid senior level developer engineers, and there's a good argument behind that. But then it goes into like, so what about the future? Like if that 35-year-old engineer is now using the models and there is no more new engineers coming in, what will happen 20 years from now? There'll be like an extinction event or something. So it talked about that, and then the gentleman received a lot of like flack, and he revised his theory and revised what he's saying, and he's saying, okay, it is not the death of the junior developers, because junior developers can benefit from models. And to be honest, this is the thing I love the most about Klein Cursor. What do you use? You told me you use.
I use Cursor most of the time. Yes.
Okay.
And now I'm actually falling in love with something else that's called lovable.dev.
Lovable, as in
lovable.
Like something that can be loved.
It's a small European startup. They grew like crazy. They have like a free version that you can go there and just prompt for an application, and it will build the application for you on the fly. And every change you make, they post directly to GitHub, and it is like a commit.
So
and you can see the code.
Let's talk about that in a minute. Like I would like to talk about prompting for applications versus prompting for code, because I think these are the nuance there is interesting.
It's very different.
Right? All right. So then the guy said it's the developers who refuse to move. You mentioned the COBOL developers in the 3270 who refused to write PC and thought PC was shit, and they were. And then the article kind of like stuck a knife and twisted it into my chest, because it talked about the smart developers who thought like assembly language is much faster than C, and this is why they should write an assembly, not C. And it kind of like made me laugh and almost cry, because my first published article in Computer Review Cairo 1990, I think, was how to make a call from Pascal, Turbo Pascal, DOS, when it used to compile it to an exe in Windows. So how to make a call from a Windows exe using DOS interruptions to an assembly component. And you write an assembly component for something that needs speed if you're doing some machine or something. And until very recently, people used different languages for speed, especially when it's real time. And then I had my friends who worked in DB2 and IBM who would use C because C++ is slow, and laugh at JVMs and Java. And Java guys used to make fun of Python. Like, people move, but sometimes people get stuck. And he's saying those who are stuck have been a problem for the software industry.
This guy is very opinionated, huh?
Yeah. And the title is The Death of the Stubborn Developers. Like, very morbid. Like, come on.
Dramatic.
Very dramatic. Like, let's not kill anybody. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, because the junior dev point he makes is a very 2023 way of thinking, right? When the early AI things. It's like very, I meet a lot of people that sometimes are very strongly laser focused on coding prowess as the only way to evaluate people's contribution to software process, which is absolutely false, right? Even when you're hiring a developer, you don't hire them by how fast, how much code they can output per minute. That's not what you do. Like, you're looking for an entire person that can bring their own vision, attention, and opinions to a pool of people doing something, right? At the end of the day, whether or not they can
That's one school of thought. That's not everybody.
True. Not everyone's gonna do this, right? There's gonna do this, but it works really well for certain types of software. Of course, if you're building other types of software, maybe it's better for you to measure lines of code per second or whatever, right? But I mean, most softwares we deal with normally, at least on my line of work, that is building commercial software or user interfaces or information systems, it's crucial to understand what you are building more than how you are building it. Because how you are building it sometimes is not super critical. Nobody's going to be crazy whether you're using Postgre versus MySQL or whatever. But if you deliver your user the wrong thing, or if you don't have proper security in place, this type of thing that is a holistic concern, it's terrible, right? So you have sometimes people who are less nerdy, into less of a bit scrubber in terms of technology, but they bring fantastic quality lenses. They have fantastic accessibility first, like, mindsets that will make them extremely valuable to your team. Sometimes even the guy who cracks the best jokes when everybody else is completely steaming from their ears can be super useful. Right? So thinking of code as the things that AI can do for you as the only contribution someone would have, and therefore now they're useless, is kind of a very myopic way of looking at the role of the software developer. But on the other hand, the stubbornness, I find it very interesting. Because one of the key elements of being a developer is adaptability to different problems and understanding the problems. Like, if you are stuck,
we've done such a bad job at that. I mean, until yesterday, people were fighting over Emacs and VI.
I mean, that's, of course, they shouldn't do this. Everybody knows VI is bad. But
Exactly. So thank you for proving my point. I mean, the two Informix database wars, IBM OS2 Windows war, the Windows Mac argument.
Yeah, the technology religious wars. Right? But that's exactly the point. Like, people get stuck into these details that are beside the point of what they're doing. Like, they're building this means to an end that is essentially creating the future, solving problems, and like making people's lives better. And the best solution is always the one you measure to be the best.
So you're saying a more complete, rounded person.
Yeah, and the adaptability is crucial for this. Like, if you're a very stubborn, very stuck, very specialized type of developer, you might be extremely useful in some scenarios, but you're also more vulnerable to being automated.
Maybe. I remember clearly an executive in IBM. I think, I don't know. I have to look for him. Where is he these days? His name was Tom Duker. And he was like a big director of an area in the lab, IBM Toronto lab. And one day I had a very tough situation. I talked to my manager. I'm like, why is this person so rude to me for no reason whatsoever? And Tom Duker in his office said, well, Ahmed, we hire very smart developers, but they're not equally developed human beings. So I think it has been the hallmark of the software industry to...
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, exactly. But there's one reason for this, right? Because the type of knowledge sometimes you need is rare. So whoever has it, even if you don't want to work with that person, you're stuck with them. I don't think I think that's
True.
going to be true for very long.
I agree, but okay, let me add another shade. And I don't know if this is related or not. Now since we're reminiscing on the old. For those of you who are much younger, there was a time where the universities will have a computer club. Like writing software was a hobby. My university did not have, as an undergraduate, software engineering. I had to study software as a postgraduate because it was not available as an undergraduate. And I remember in my first two jobs in Egypt, one was an Apple subsidiary. We worked in Arabic OS 7, and one was IBM. I worked in IBM OS Arabic as well. The common thing we'd say to each other is this open secret is we will do the job even if we're not paid. There was that passion and love. Every single person who worked in these teams, in these areas, was so passionate and thoroughly enjoyed every click of the keyboard. It's a feeling that I try to recapture every now and then. Like I still try to remind myself that how lucky I am that I am doing this thing that I just love. And somewhere along the way, we lost that as an industry. It became too professional in my like the word
I
amateur
wouldn't say
comes
too professional, but I mean, yeah, I agree. We lost a little bit of it,
like
but I
the
don't
word
think it's a bad thing.
the word amateur I think comes from the Latin origin for it is love in Latin. There is love, like we love software. How many like if you go to a team in an enterprise right now and you look at and I'm like talking a big department that has director managers and software developers and product owners and project managers and the whole gamut. How many of that team, what's the percentage of people that truly enjoys the work?
Yeah, I've felt it very strongly. I'm sure you have a similar experience. At some point in my professional life, I found that the ratio changed dramatically from being surrounded by these passionate people who were playing music with a spontaneous band to a bunch of professional musicians, right? Because one person was asking me at the time, oh, how it is to work on this new job you got, and I was like, well, it's kind of weird. Why? It feels like I remember the phrase I used to this day. It feels like I'm working with a bunch of people that just went to school and learned how to code.
But that was the reality, right?
Yeah.
And maybe, and the reason that happened is because we can't have enough. There's too much to be done and not enough people to do it. Because what nobody can deny is that there is still this need for this weird skill, talent, genetic aberration, whatever you want to call it, where somebody can think like a machine and can feed the machine with how to think. And that is needed even with AI a little bit. And we can maybe move to that now.
Yeah, but I think it's your previous point was very, very correct. It has to do with passion, like more than with the way you are kind of structured in your wired.
So it doesn't matter now what tool you have. Like let's say you have a tool now that you can talk to it and it would write the code for you. If you still have that grumpy, no passion, I don't care, I just want to do whatever I want to do, I don't want to fix anything, person behind it, you're going to get crap out of it too. You're not going to get great products.
You might not even get what you want.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, this is now maybe in a year or 2 years from now, like Claude or Grok or something is going to be so smart. They're going to say, oh no, this is Ahmed being stupid again. I'm going to write something better than what he says. Maybe that will happen. But until now, I don't see, I see that I don't see this as a death of a certain type of developers. I see it as a liberation or maybe a chance for us to restore our energy back and being productive. Like I am so in love with how productive I am now. I can do the things I want to do.
Yeah, and there's the thing, like but the other aspect I think is in the original software revolution. If you say like when computers become personal computers and now you have software everywhere, right? You had like the figure of the genius teenage guy that can write code in his sleep and in his lack of sleep. and like can like create entire revolutions from his garage. This myth, right? This superhero death. That's the guy that is the thinks like a machine or whatever. Like this is the era of very authorial software. Like you can do a parallel with music as well. Like every big genre when it's born in class in music, it's born with this type of guy, and it's very good
Or
for a
girl.
revolution, but it's not great product, right? Because that being a single person doing something allows you to do a lot of terrible things as well. Like you can do your whatever you did, people are stuck with it. They can't disagree with you, right? Having a more professional, more plural way of building software is better because now you can actually have other voices looking at the what you're doing. Is like, how would a person with a baby on their arm use this thing if they need to use both hands to do this thing? Yeah,
Oh,
you're
I
right.
no, I am not arguing against the professional side of it. I all I'm saying is the lack of passion, right? That the lack of love for what we do, and this feeling of frustration and being overworked and always underpaid. We're always underpaid. That's human nature.
Everybody's always underpaid,
Everybody's underpaid.
and that's how you get billionaires. I said that out loud.
But that's the feeling, and hopefully I think AI is going to take us out of that. So let's now talk about this thing because I am also thinking about this. The difference between using models to write code versus solve problems. We at the I don't know if we're at the point where Tetris, I understand. You'll tell the model write Tetris. Tetris is well defined. Or snakes and something in a game, and you write all the rules of the game, and that's sort of well defined. And you can do that type of prompting. But solving world problems, do you just talk to the model about solving the problem, or do you solve the problem in your head using code and talk to the model and ask it to write the code?
Yeah, for me, it's always the second option. Right? I have this conversation a lot
So,
with
okay,
other
so
devs.
for you and me, it's a second option. But I also wonder, we all know that the native generation always find a way for the technology different than those who are first users. Like we were native to TVs and we used them different than our parents, and then our kids were native to computers and they use it different than us, and there were the kids who were born into phones and iPads. So now we're going to have, in very shortly, we're going to have graduates with that, and they will use it differently. So I am still debating because I have been arguing with the client for a couple of days. I want you to write something for me, but I didn't like the way it structured it. I didn't like the file structure. I didn't like the directory structure. And I asked it to change it, and it did it, and then it forgot, and then it did it again. And then I learned, like, okay, and there is something called client rules, and you can do the same with cursor, where you sort of prefix everything you're going to say with this is who am I, this is who I am. So you maintain this.
Rain.
Well, no, it's more of like a personality understanding. And that's the first thing that's going on my head. And the second thing is, what the hell happens when we do real human pair programming or teamwork? Because so far the productivity spike is so high that one developer can do, or one person can do, like what a full team will do. But what will happen when two of these start to work? I am not sure yet. How would, like, a second developer or a second senior engineer is going to come, grab the code, probably with the prompts, with the existing prompts from GitHub, and then ask the model to explain to her and or him what was done before, and try to understand what she needs to do, and talks to the first person and ask her, like, what did you do? And they need to talk to each other, and then you get two people talking to the model. This scenario, I am not sure it's out there yet. It's still, I haven't seen it in
It might
scale.
be because I think it's better than getting code plus prompts is better than getting only code.
is a lot better than any code that I can write, not just faster, but also better, and by any other developers that I know of.
Times.
I mean, for most of the time, I agree.
Yeah, I think half the time I would say it's very good
Oh
code.
no, more than half. So there was this thing that I always see when you build an API. I built an API. I told him. I told now I say him. I told the model. Told it. Damn it, Sky network is gonna attack us. I told the model that I wanted an admin page, and it's going to look up the user session secure to see who's an admin and show the admin page. And it did the right implementation whereby the API cannot be hacked, which is like every novice developer to sometimes even not so novice developers do, where they build an API that is authenticated, but then it doesn't check inside who are you exactly, and are you allowed, although you're authenticated, but are you allowed to do this? And it did the right thing, like it did the check, and I was so impressed by how it did it, and it does things that I am ashamed to say
At least not in the first interaction, because that's what's impressive, right? It does the things you would probably have done by the third or fourth iteration when you saw it working. I forgot this, and boom, and then you add it
and I find that the quality control of it is much higher. The checks for every single input, if it's valid or not, and what are the possible values. Every time you make a query to a third party, a database, did that return a cursor? And if did not return a cursor, return that error. It does things really, really well. I am, in general, I am excited because I know how the tool works, and I know not everyone can use it. It is not still there for a business owner who is not, because now the word is not technical, because we used to say they're not technical.
Yeah.
I think the word now is like
they're not deep into the weeds of how these pieces, the individual pieces.
Yeah, but it's not about technicalities. We go back into the original kids from the 80s. There was not a whole lot of technical knowledge behind BASIC, GW Basic. There was like 10 commands, like go to, add, and print, or whatever. Like it was very close to machine. And the
call that technical, but
yeah, but you grab a whole class and you show them what this does. You show them the steps they can use. And then you tell them, or 100 kids, and you tell them, who of you can draw a circle and who can make the circle move on the screen? There's only 1 or 2 kids in the 100 who would say, I'm going to do a loop, I'm going to draw it, I'm going to wipe it, I'm going to draw it with the background on top of the original to wipe it, because that's how you did it in GW Basic on Commodore 64. I'm going to have a counter, and the counter will be X. I'm going to increase X. I'm going to draw it again in the new X. That thinking, you still need that to solve a problem, because if you're going to say, how is a customer going to pay their bill? I need the customer. I need to get their ID. I need to authenticate them. I need to look at the bill. I need to look at the balance. Like understanding that logical sequence.
But I mean, wouldn't you say that there's a bunch of the knowledge, the deep knowledge and interest in the problem space in the real world? That this guy who would be very good at scrubbing the bytes and doing the deep technological things would lack as well, like the where to put your buttons so you can have the best things, or that. I mean, I'd say the old days, what we did have was a very inaccessible way of solving problems with computers. Like if you have 100 people, 100 smart people, assuming, right? And you only had like 2 or 3 that can actually interface with your programming language, it's not the other 90 people who are the problem.
I understand, right? but and again, I understand, and keep in mind, deep knowledge has always been ephemeral in our business.
Mm-hmm.
If you had deep knowledge in 3270 that was valuable in the 70s, it was not valuable in the 80s. You had deep knowledge of DOS, disk operating system, which is underneath Windows, and Mac. It became not valuable in the 90s. You had deep knowledge of Windows and OS2 and Mac. It became not valuable in the 2000s. You had deep knowledge in HTTP servers and app servers that became not valuable in the 2010. You had knowledge in, and we can go for examples forever, right? Deep knowledge is ephemeral in our business. And it was the guy, I find that some human beings, some team members, guys and girls, they were just brilliant always. Whatever, they were brilliant in Java, they were brilliant in C, they were brilliant in cloud, they were brilliant in pipelines, they were brilliant in Python, they're brilliant in, and brings me to that. We have a boss, if you remember, our common boss, Yuri. I loved Yuri. I worked with him more than you did. And Yuri had this talent of finding talent, of finding really good people to work with. And he used that word, very simple, and it struck me when he said it. He said, that person is bright, or that person is not bright. He didn't say technical or deep, or they know React.js very well, or they don't know. Like, he used the word bright, and it's just a bright, engineer that we look.
Could be, but I still think there's a type of person that would not appear a shining beacon of technical problem solution, but you will be extremely happy they are there with you solving that problem, because they will do things you can't.
They will be bright in their
They will be
own
bright
rights.
in a different way that sometimes you will not be detecting because you'll not be looking for it.
Fully understand, and that's why I like the word bright. And no matter how you do it, we don't have enough bright people.
Yeah, exactly. We always need bright people, right?
And now
I think the tools getting better. I think that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. The tools getting better. What happens because of it is that you will give more people the opportunity to be able to express their brightness.
exactly. So the bright people are going to be expressing their ideas and brightness a lot faster, a lot better. And I think we are going back into the old days where you don't get into IT unless you're really a nerd who loves it. You're not going to sleepwalking into, what are you going to study? I'm going to study IT or IT management because that's what's going to get me a job out of university. I don't think and I'm sort of
That's
glad.
true, but I think the shape is going to be very different, right? Because in the old days, the bright developer is the guy who understands the machine really well. The way you work with Claude Sonnet is the way you work with like Llama 3.3, like the Meta Llama, is different. So they have different, or ChatGPT, like they have different personalities. It's more like getting used to a co-worker.
I agree, and I'm learning. I am actually learning how to do it, and it made me laugh. It reminded me of my first object-oriented program. Sorry, my first procedure-oriented program, because there was procedure-oriented programming that came to fix spaghetti, go to basic. And then there was object-oriented programming. And every time when you started a new paradigm, you always used it wrong. And then you learn by doing it. The more I get into, but that's a different thing, interacting with AI and building AI applications is something that I'm still thinking about. But that is a little bit different from building non-AI applications using AI. That's sort of, we're still at step one now.
Yeah.
Step two is pretty much coming soon. And when we're talking about building using AI applications, we're doing the same thing we've done always before. We're using it for the wrong thing. Like, nobody can build a killer AI app yet, other than the chat bot, ChatGPT, and Claude. Like, there is no, the only killer apps are Cursor, Lovable, and Climb. These are the killer apps, to be honest, so far.
For us, like, so maybe someone is super happy with their, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know.
Searching.
But like there is Google, like LLM, like Notebook LLM, or
Notebook LLM is very
like
great.
there are AI productivity tools, and they're going out there, but they're not insane. Gemini has been series nothing but a disappointment as always.
Siri is very disappointing, and it's now Alexa, right? The Amazon Alexa, but I think this is cost, right? Because what happens with AI is that AI is not cheap. So if you are giving people the amount of energy that is required to produce good AI results, they better be making a lot of money with it. Otherwise, they're not going to pay the $20 a month it takes for you
Was
to give them that much
yeah,
GPU.
yeah, I agree, I agree. And if you're listening and you're writing software and you are not using AI tools, I would say that's now borderline negligence. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say it's you better have a very good reason for it. Just like someone like writing
So, like you
like
better have a very good
COBOL
reason that we
today.
cannot think of right now.
If you're writing COBOL now, you better have a very good reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, you could be working for the Department of Treasury. That's what they're using.
That's a good reason.
Or you
You
could be
probably
living
make a lot of money.
in like in certain countries like Cuba. I know when I was in Cuba, I didn't have access to OpenAI. I tried from my computer to write code and the code failed because there is no access. So yeah, I mean, if you live anywhere in the world that has access, you are always, I think it is negligent. I honestly think by now, if you're not even trying to use it, it's such a losing
It's a
situation.
huge missed opportunity for sure.
A
Those
little
are
bit
the
more
modern
severe,
tools.
a little bit more severe than that.
Mar,
I think it could be like a career damaging move because if you're out, it's gonna take you forever to recover.
could be. But I mean, I imagine the tools are gonna get better. I mean, some people are not gonna be tailored to use the AI tools the way they are today, right? Because
I'm talking about software development.
yeah, but imagine you're doing software. I've talked to developers who don't deal with the AI coding tools in the most efficient way because they are not deep into how they actually
But
work.
that's fine. That's fine. Like you will gain efficiency by time and by interaction. What I'm worried about is somebody who's not having at all any interaction with the tools.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I think that the point I was trying to make is that there will be people who will thrive working with the way it is now. Those are the early adopters of this thing.
100%.
They'll be super. Other people are gonna go there, try it, and say, "It's not doing a lot for me," just because they're not used to maybe the ways of thinking that are conductive to being good.
Very, very, very dangerous. Like going say, I tried C++. It's the same thing as COBOL. It does record.
Yeah, no, I heard.
That's a very, I know
I'm
that's
sure you heard this as well.
I heard that's what I heard that from somebody
Yeah,
25 years ago.
I don't know. I don't know what these people are talking about with this web thing.
Yeah.
I could do this with 2 lines of jQuery. Why will building all these components?
Something like that. All right, man. It's good to talk to you.
Oh, always a pleasure.
I missed the chat, and maybe next time we'll talk about vibe coding because that seems to be the hot topic. And what else would they invent?
They invent in the electrical internet that they
It's
use
awesome.
these days.
All right. Enjoy.
You too, man.
Take care soon.
Bye.